This is Anchor Your Retirement with Barb Gulland from Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Barb Gulland provides her clients and prospects the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful strategies to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now here is Anchor Your Retirement with Barb Gulland.
Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Gulland, and hanging out with me is my favorite, Tony Shore.
Your favorite co-host.
My favorite co-host.
I'm your only co-host, so hopefully I'm your favorite, right?
Well, you'd still be my favorite even if I had other co-hosts.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's nice. That's nice. Well, Barb, I'm excited because when people are seeing the show, it's Christmas weekend.
It is.
And the show goes live. We're recording it a couple of days before, but it goes live Saturday on Christmas weekend. And so we're almost there. We're just a couple of days away. So I'm excited.
I'll be celebrating with my family when it goes live.
Yes. And I will be as well. I'll be at my wife's brother's house, and him and his wife have us over, and some of their family and all of our family and kids. And she is quite the cook. So I'm looking forward to that because they put on a spread. So, and
Yes. My daughter is hosting this year for the first time. It will not be a spread. We do it. We take it easy on Christmas. We do Thanksgiving really, really big.
Yeah.
And so for us, Christmas is finger food and our favorite dips. And
that's what ours will be.
And something that we're talking about today, sandwiches. Only we're not talking about the kind you eat.
Oh, shoot. I was hoping we could talk about my favorite kinds of sandwiches on the show, like the Philly cheesesteak or the Reuben.
I like Philly cheesesteaks. What's your most memorable sandwich?
Most memorable sandwich. There was a place, and I forget the name, when I lived in Southern California for 5.5 years, there was a place that had the best Philly cheesesteak. And it was weird. It was in
California,
like ground steak. Yes, it was one of the best sandwiches I've ever had. It was so good. You had to experience it to believe it. But Philly cheesesteak and Reubens. I mean, Reubens are really good if you get them at the right place.
Yes, and it has to be a good cut of meat. Now, do you remember Carnegie Deli in New York City?
I've heard of Carnegie Deli. I've never, ever been there, but I know
went once. I think they're closed now. I think they've been closed for a long time because I remember being sad. First of all, I have pictures of the daughter who's hosting Christmas. She was 6 months old and in a stroller, and I have pictures of her sucking on sweet pickles. They were like her favorite thing. She had no teeth, so literally all she did was suck on them. But my favorite sandwich there was, I got their, what did I get? I got a pastrami sandwich, I think. And it was
pastrami is so
this
good.
Tall. I mean, it had to be, there had to be like a pound of beef. No, it was corned beef. It was corned beef on rye. That's what it was. So I was thinking pastrami with the Reuben. So anyway, and rabbit trailed there. But yeah. Had to be like the best sandwich of my life. I could only eat about a third of it, and I actually wrapped up the second half and brought it home for my dad to share with him.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Well, when I lived in LA, Cantor's Deli is one of the big ones there. That's probably they're famous for their pastrami, and I mean, it is amazing. If you ever get to LA, you got to eat there. On purpose.
LA is not a city I aspire to visit. Sorry if you're an Angelonian out there. I can't.
No, it's tough now. I mean, last time I was out there, it's just to get around and just the the cost of everything and too many people. But I lived in Orange County in Southern California, south of Los Angeles, and it was just, I was young and single. It was so much fun. But let's talk about the sandwich you want to talk about.
And we're going to talk about the sandwich generation.
Okay.
And some things that they can do looking into the new year to try to make it as easy as possible. Now, you're a part of the sandwich generation.
I am. And probably a lot of our listeners as well. It's like the 50 plus crowd usually right now. You're in that sandwich generation where you have adult children and you have
like
aging parents,
teenage children.
Yes.
And some people have even younger children, and they've got aging parents that are needing a little extra help.
Yes.
And it can be a very stressful season of life.
Oh, it is. I can attest to it.
Yeah. I mean, not only physically and emotionally, but financially, it can take its toll on you too.
Yeah.
You know, because it's hard to see our parents in a place where they may need care and to try to figure out where those resources are if mom and dad didn't plan properly.
Right.
And, you know, there are some that planned very, very well for this kind of circumstance. And there are others who did not. And then you have to balance that against the needs of your own family, your own kids, and protecting your own future financially. You know?
Well, and that's where I'm at, you know, and so when you talk about sandwich generation, Barb, you're talking about being caught between supporting your kids and supporting your parents, or at least emotional, maybe physical support. They actually have to get hands-on to help them, and a lot of times financially. And that's the situation I'm in. I love my mom and dad. They just didn't plan as well as they should have. And my dad without my mom, because she's in long-term care because she has Parkinson's and she's in the later stages of Parkinson's. So she
that
can't.
Makes it difficult.
Yeah, it's really difficult. So she can't really help out in any way now. And my dad just wasn't good at it. And, you know, he wasn't good at saving. He was pretty good at spending. So he likes to buy old tractors and he's getting physically can't, you know, do a lot. Anymore. Yeah, but he wants to still. And that's the problem.
And culturally, things have changed. We are one of the first generations in this country where you don't have multiple generations if they're not living under the same roof, at least in the same geographical area.
Yeah. I'm almost 4 hours away from my parents and I have no siblings. So it's been a tough one. I've had to go down every weekend and it gets to be a lot. But I love them. They took care of me and did a good job, I think, raising me. If I do say so myself, and they're good people, but it's hard. This is the one time in my life where I've really missed not having siblings. I enjoyed being an only child, and I made a lot of friends, so I never lacked in that area and had close cousins. But boy, right now, it would be great to have siblings to help with mom and dad.
It sure would. And just like you remember a few weeks ago, I was up in Chicago for a funeral. My grandfather's youngest brother, my great uncle, passed away just short of his 91st birthday. And, you know, he had 6 kids of his own. And they had actually, my uncle had been in the financial services arena, was a very, very smart man. And they had planned very well for his need of care. And he was fortunate enough. He hospiced at home and, you know, it was as peaceful a transition as it could be.
Yeah.
But of those 6 kids, 2 of the 6 kind of took the lead with coordinating care.
It's usually the way it goes.
And, you know, they had the resources where they could hire caregivers to come in and help.
Yeah.
And I was visiting with one of my cousins, one of those 2 afterward, you know, because at an Italian funeral, you always have a party after everything.
Oh, yeah.
All is said and done.
Yeah.
I'm sure other ethnic groups do it too, but we were at the party and I asked him, I'm like, how are you doing? And he's like, it hasn't hit me yet. He said, it's going to hit me when there's nothing to do. When I don't have to figure out which caregiver is coming next, when I don't need to make this call, when I don't need to make these arrangements. So if I'm going to give the people in the sandwich generation out there a checklist, because several of my clients are also in this position. Sure. And we have this conversation when they come in for their reviews. The first thing I want you to do is remember that you need to take care of yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't dig from an empty well.
Yeah. Good point. Good one.
And, it's the adage that we've all heard if we've flown on an airplane about putting on your own oxygen mask before you help other people get theirs on.
Yeah. Before you help children or the elderly or those in need, you got to get your own mask secure first.
Yep. And, and that pertains to your finances as well.
Sure.
If you're in a place where you're having to financially help mom and dad, this is not the time for your pride to get in the way. Mm-hmm. It's okay to ask if there are other resources out there to provide help if they don't have the means to make things happen. Because if you put yourself in a situation where you take all of your resources and use them to take care of mom and dad, then there's nothing to take care of you. And you have created that same problem for your kids.
Yeah, it's cyclical.
Yeah.
It's cyclical or however you say it. But you're right. It's just, and then that feeds the problem and it carries on. So that's a really good point, Barb. I really would agree with that. And, my wife and I, we have 3 kids in college and we have my parents who also need some help. Mm-hmm. And so that's tough. I mean, that's a lot. And we tell our kids that we're not paying for their full college. They have to work and they've saved up money and we have some saved in 529 plans. And so we've done some planning, and thanks to you and the advice you get from good financial services professionals, we'd be in deep water had we not gotten that advice. And I wish my parents had done that. I really do.
Well, and what I hope is that the people who are listening to this, who still have healthy parents like me, take the time to have the conversation with their parents now.
Yes.
To find out if they've got stuff set aside, where it's set aside.
Yeah.
Who to contact if they need to tap into that.
Yep.
And if they don't have anything set aside, these are not easy conversations, but it's time to have,
especially with that generation, like my dad's generation, my dad and his family,
proud and private.
And his dad, they never discussed their financial situation or money, and they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
It's hard to approach it with them because they think, oh, are you trying to, you want to get at my money or, do you need money? And so it's like, no, I want to make sure you are set. And so it's a hard conversation, but you're right, Barb, communication is the key here, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't want to sit here and go nuts trying to figure out how to take care of you only after you're dead, going through your stuff to find out that there was a long-term care insurance policy or a cash value life insurance policy that we could have accessed, but you had a stroke and couldn't talk anymore and couldn't tell me where it was.
Right. Yeah, that's tough.
It's complicated. It really is. And, these aren't easy conversations. I strongly recommend alcohol not being a part of the conversation. Even if you think it's going to make it easier. You need
that never makes a conversation better.
No, but it's time to say mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad. Give the best Christmas gift you can give yourself if you don't have this information is to ask them for this time to sit down and have that conversation.
Yeah.
Lay it out ahead of time and say, this is why. And if you're worried about them interrupting you or cutting you off, send an email, write a letter, do something so that you know what's going on where.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're like in my situation where I'm the only child, they realized, and my mom realized as she had to go into the home and stuff, they did start opening up to me, but it was, I think it should have happened sooner. It is under duress. So, and different situations can arise, like my situation where my father doesn't want to leave the farm and his house. But yet he's starting to fall, and I want him to be happy, but at the same time, I want him to be safe. And, he's not necessarily safe out there on the farm by himself, but
no,
he would hate moving, and he can still get around. So it's tough. It's a tough situation, but I've had conversations with him. We're getting to the point, we're getting further along in this process. So that's good. And I just think working with a financial services professional like yourself, I mean, this isn't an infomercial at all. We do this show to just provide good information to people. Right. But I will say one of the things, whether it's Barbara or someone else that you can trust, you've got to talk with, sit down with your parents and a financial advisor. That's going to help too, isn't it?
It is. It is, because we can be, we're not, I don't know how to say this without it sounding strange. We're not emotionally invested in what's going on. Are we invested emotionally in the well-being of our clients? Yes, I think any good planner is.
Oh, for sure. Okay. But you're not emotionally tied to the money,
No.
You can look at it from an objective viewpoint, and that's a huge advantage to working with someone like yourself.
And perhaps offer a solution that nobody knew existed.
Right.
Before this meeting, I got off of a Zoom meeting with a client that I have. His mom recently passed away, and he's like, I just found 3 more accounts that I didn't know she had.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's a good thing, but it's bad that you don't know where they're at. I mean, there's good news and bad news there. Yeah.
You as the parents out here in this, listening to this, the best thing you can do for your kids and for your family is to have all of that documented somewhere.
Yeah.
If you're a client of ours, that's what we advocate using our generational vault for. Because you have an unlimited storage capacity and you have the different folders already logged into it where you can put your legal documents, you can put your tax documents. As the financial advisor, I've got copies of all of the financial information that they need. I tell all of my clients, make sure your kids know when something happens to you after you've called the funeral home and the coroner, your next call needs to be to our office so that we can start helping coordinate from that end of things.
Yeah.
And when you have these kind of life-changing circumstances, that's when you need to call your financial advisor and get them involved.
Yeah. And I think the reason so many people end up in tough situations with the passing, nobody likes to talk about this or talk about what happens when I pass away. Right. Nobody likes to talk about their own passing or a loved one's passing. And but if you can just get over that initial mental block, it's so much of a relief to have everything out on the table, let me tell you.
It is. And here's a tease for next week's podcast. We're going to be introducing a tool that we have in addition to the generational vault that can make all of that a whole lot easier for you.
Excellent.
Not that I want to make this a commercial, because this is an important conversation and something that needs to be discussed. You being caught in the middle, you need to make sure that you take care of yourself physically, emotionally, and financially. It's hard, but you're going to need to set boundaries about what you can afford to take out of your own personal nest egg when it comes to taking care of mom and dad, just like you need to make that decision when it comes to how much you're going to contribute to your kids' education.
Yeah.
As we've said before, there is nothing wrong, like you said, with your kids having a job while they go to college. Newsflash, all of Gen X did it and we survived.
Yes, we survived. Yeah, my parents didn't cover my college. So.
And in some ways we thrived because of it, because it taught us how to manage that responsibility. But I digress.
Exactly. So, and it's nice if we can help them out a little bit, because college has gotten so expensive. So having a financial advisor where you can have investments or 529s that will help in that way. But you have to look at your overall picture, and everybody's situation is different. But this sandwich generation, I'm glad you brought it up today, Barbara, because
you guys have to know what mom and dad have, because they might have a resource you don't even know about.
Right. It's true. Yeah, my mom and dad had, I didn't know my mom had any long-term care insurance, and she does. It's small, but hey, it covers
every little bit helps.
It covers a portion of the costs of her long-term care each month. It's not a lot compared to the overall cost, but every little bit helps when it comes to health care and long-term care. And Medicare does not cover long-term care. I'm here to tell people, newsflash.
It does not. It does not.
Only in certain situations, and only up to 100 days at most. So if you're in the hospital and you're transferred to a certain long-term care facility, and it's recommended by the hospital because of what you were in the hospital for, and you meet certain qualifications, they cover 90 to 100 days, and then they're done regardless. So then you're on your own. And my mom's been in there 2 years. So
wow. And I mean, another thing is, a lot of times back in the day, people bought permanent life insurance. They may have bought a whole life insurance policy, or a variable life insurance policy, something like that, that could very well have a cash value in it that can be accessed to help cover some of the cost of this care.
Right. And you're not necessarily going to get a check in the mailbox when your parents pass away from a life insurance company that you didn't know about. You don't have to just, I'm not worried about that, I'm just going to get a check from someone. Well, not necessarily. You need to be proactive.
Know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody has to let them know. And
let's be honest, the insurance company is not combing the obituaries every day to see if they've got a policy holder that they need to reach out to a beneficiary on.
No.
Newsflash.
You have to get a hold of them and prove it with, they need copies, forms filled out, and copies of death certificates. So well, I just think this is so important, and I know that you help your clients plan for this so they don't get caught in between a rock and a hard place. And when we do our
best to talk it through.
When I first heard the term sandwich generation, I'm like, hey, I'm glad I'm part of that. It sounds great at first until you learn what it means, and then you're like, oh wait, I'm in financial hot water here. I'm between a rock and a hard place with my kids and my parents.
And emotional hot water, and just having the bandwidth to handle all of it. It's a different world.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And again, I think that you're too close to your own situation. It helps to have an outside person, because Barb, you're going to tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Right. I mean, that's the key. So how can our listeners set up a consultation? I know that you offer an initial consultation to look at where they're at, answer some questions, get a plan started for them. And there's no charge or obligation to continue or do anything past that if they don't want to. And it's just a great thing to do. You can run reports for them, talk to them about where they're at. And if they choose to become your client and have you help them with their finances and help them with the plan, great. If not, no problem, right?
Yeah. And even anybody out there who's not a client, who is interested in getting into, getting their own complimentary generational vault, to make it easy for somebody to, if you get to a place where you're in that same situation, a place to consolidate everything, highly recommend it. But they can reach out to us. Our phone number is area code 913-553-6222. And you can always go to the website for this podcast, anchoryourretirement.com.
All right. And you've got a great show lined up for us next week as well.
I do. We're going to be talking about financial resolutions for the new year.
Excellent. And that one will go live New Year's weekend. So that's perfect. And this one's Christmas. So I want to wish all our listeners out there and you, Barb, a very happy holiday. And
yes.
I really hope everyone has a safe and happy holiday season.
Yes. Merry Christmas to you. Happy Hanukkah to those who have already celebrated.
Yeah.
And, may the rest of you enjoying your holiday season have peace, have joy, and may the coming year bring blessings to everybody.
All right. Well, Barb, great show. And again, if people want to get a hold of you, the number is 913-553-6222. That's 913-553-6222, or go to safeharborfpg.com.
Thanks, Tony. I'll see you next week.
All right. See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Anchor Your Retirement. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound retirement plan. For more information, please contact Barb Golan at Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group. Call 913-553-6222 or visit them online at anchoryourretirement.com.
Advisory services are offered through Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Kansas. All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.